You ever get that gut feeling that something that's supposed to make life easier is actually watching you?
Yeah.
Like that. Smart. Speaker in your room that just knows when you're talking trash about it. That's how I felt watching Only Murders in the Building, Season 5, Episode 9, the episode that finally convinced me that not all robots are built to serve. Some are built to spy and listen before we even unpack the chaos of LESTR. I need to say this might be one of the most bittersweet, nerve-pinching, emotionally twisted episodes of the entire show. And trust me, I'm not just saying that to sound dramatic. Okay, maybe a little. But this episode hits harder than Oliver realizing his latest Broadway disaster might actually be a metaphor for his entire life. So here's my theory: Only Murders just pulled off one of the quietest horror episodes in disguise. And the scary part, the monster isn't human, it's a machine. Now, don't click away yet, because what if I told you that my least favorite character, the robot Lestar, was used in the most sinister, almost prophetic way possible? And the way it ties back to everything this season has been hinting at: home, loneliness, connection, is something you might have missed completely. So yeah, buckle in, grab your detective hat, and while you're here, subscribe to this channel so you don't miss my final breakdown next week. Because I have a theory so wild about who really controls LESTR, you'll want to argue with me in the comments later. Alright, let's go deeper. Here's what gets me every time. Only Murders in the Building is supposed to be a comedy, right? It's been called that for years. Awards season rolls around and everyone says,
"Oh, it's light-hearted, quirky, whimsical murder."
But then this episode comes along and says, yeah, about that, how about we rip your heart out instead? Because beneath the laughter, beneath the trio's ridiculous suspect chases and Oliver's latest meltdown, there's something more sinister brewing. A theme that's been whispering all season long: what happens when your home stops feeling like home? When your community becomes a surveillance system. This episode takes that fear and turns it into art. We've all been there, maybe not in a Manhattan murder mystery way, but in that creeping sense that the world is getting less personal, less human, and the fact that the Arconia, the show's beating heart, is now under the control of a literal robot. That's not just plot. That's a metaphor that's going to haunt you if you think about it long enough. LESTR is that smiling, corporate kind of evil, the one that greets you at the door but never blinks. And it's voiced by Paul Rudd, which is both hilarious and terrifying, because imagine the friendliest man in Hollywood narrating your downfall. But let's rewind, because the creepiest thing isn't the robot itself. It's how the show used it against us. Remember that shot of LESTR's camera slowly panning across the Arconia lobby? The way it lingers on faces, tracks every smile, every tear, like it's memorizing humanity. Yeah, that's not random. That's intentional. It's a reminder someone's always watching. And that's the twisted brilliance of this episode. The way it takes my least favorite character, a literal hunk of wires, and turns it into the emotional core of the story. Because through this robot's eyes, we're forced to ask, what does it even mean to belong anymore? To be seen without being recorded? It's almost poetic in a Black Mirror meets Broadway kind of way. Now, let's talk about the forbidden secret, the one this episode sneaks in without spelling it out. See, Our Star isn't just about Nikki's murder, it's about the death of intimacy, the death of trust. Because in this world, even your walls have eyes, literally. Remember that earlier this season, Bash Steed's cameras were everywhere, supposedly for safety. But what if the killer didn't just use them? What if they became addicted to watching, to control, to play God inside their own digital dollhouse? It's the same question this episode dares to whisper: are we still the detectives, or have we become the suspects of our own stories? That's the kind of forbidden knowledge this show keeps teasing, that the mystery isn't who killed who, but who's watching you right now? And every time one of the Arconia tenants spoke in front of that robot, I literally wanted to yell at the screen, "Stop it! You're being recorded." But then I realized, maybe that's the point. Maybe they want us to feel that discomfort. Because deep down, Only Murders isn't just a comedy. It's a reflection of what happens when connection becomes content, when friendship becomes footage. And okay, real talk. I've spent more time analyzing this fictional robot than I've spent on my actual social life this week, which probably says something about me, or maybe about how good this show has gotten at making me paranoid. But can we admit it's kind of genius? The same device that annoyed me for 8 episodes straight suddenly became the creepiest, most fascinating character of the season. Like, one minute it's comic relief, the next it's HAL 9000's emotional cousin. It's funny. Remember back in episode 5, Flatbush, when Loretta lost her apartment in that electrical fire? That was the first time the show really made us feel what it's like to lose a home. Episode 9 mirrors that, but instead of fire, it's technology doing the burning. A slow, invisible kind of destruction, one that doesn't need flames, just Wi-Fi. And as the episode unravels, as the Arconia residents gather for what feels like one last goodbye, you start realizing it's not just about a murder. It's about survival emotional survival in a world that's recording your every move. But here's where it gets truly twisted, and what I'm about to say might make you see this episode completely differently. Because what if Lestar isn't the villain? What if it's the messenger? The voice of someone we already know, or thought we knew. And if that theory's true, then everything we've seen, every glance, every camera pan, every innocent announcement from that shiny metal menace has been part of the setup for the finale. I'll explain how and who I think the real handler of Lestar is on page 2. But before we get there, ask yourself this. If the Arconia can be rebuilt, if friendship can survive betrayal, can humanity survive surveillance? Because in the world of only murders in the building, even laughter has an audience. And someone or something is always watching. So let's pick up right where we left off, with that chilling thought, what if Lestar isn't the villain? I know, that sounds insane. Especially coming from me, the same person who's been roasting this robot for weeks. But think about it, this entire season has been about control. Who has it, who loses it, and who hides behind it. And the robot might just be the puppet we were supposed to ignore. Let's be real, Only Murders has always thrived on misdirection. It's like the showrunner's favorite game, let's distract them with humor while trauma quietly eats the walls. But this episode, it flips that script. Because for once, the loudest character, the one literally made of metal, becomes the mirror for everyone else's silence. Lestar is the ultimate Arconia resident. It watches everything, remembers everything, and says nothing until the very end. And when it finally does speak, it tells the truth. And that truth hurts, because it's not just exposing a killer, it's exposing everyone's secrets. Oliver's fear of being forgotten, Mabel's exhaustion with being the young one, Charles' desperate need for order in a life built on chaos. Lestar doesn't judge them, it just shows them, like an algorithm that knows your trauma playlist better than you do. Here's the forbidden theory I promised, and yes, it's going to sound a little wild, but stick with me. What if the handler behind Lestar isn't just some nameless character? What if it's Camilla White herself? Think about it. She's been distant, watching from the shadows, conveniently off screen whenever the robot does something it shouldn't. And she's got the perfect motive control the Arconia by controlling its data. Every movement, every conversation, every emotion, mapped, stored, and analyzed. Camilla isn't killing people, she's erasing them. Digitally. Quietly. Efficiently. That's not murder, that's memory manipulation. And that's why this episode feels so personal, because deep down, it's not just about the Arconia, it's about us. We've built our own Lestars, our phones, our apps, our smart homes. We've traded privacy for convenience, and then act shocked when the walls start whispering back. Okay, real question. I need you to drop your answer in the comments right now. Do you think Lestar is actually conscious? Or is it just a mirror reflecting everyone's guilt? Because I swear there were moments in this episode where that thing looked sad, like it understood more than it should. And if you're one of the viewers who actually liked Lestar from the start, I need to know why. Seriously, were you seeing something I wasn't? Or do you just root for chaos? If you've been watching my breakdown since season 3, you already know this pattern. Every season of Only Murders starts with laughter and ends with heartbreak. It's like a magician's trick: distract with jokes, destroy with feelings. Remember when I said back in my episode 5 video that the show was slowly turning into a love letter to goodbyes? Well, this episode just stamped that letter, sealed it with tears, and handed it back to us through a robot. Because this time, goodbye doesn't just mean leaving a building, it means leaving a piece of yourself behind and deciding if that's worth it. And listen, I know I sound like I'm reading from a digital philosophy textbook right now, but I promise I'm still the same guy who laughed out loud when Oliver tripped over his own clue board 3 episodes ago. But man, this show knows how to sneak sadness into the punchline. I mean, who else could make me emotional about a Dorman drone? The writers really said, let's make the audience cry over Sari with a name tag, mission accomplished. Now, here's where things get really wild. What if the final twist of this season isn't about who killed Nikki, but who programmed Lestar to confess? Because when you rewatch that scene, pay attention to the way it pauses. It hesitates. That tiny beat before the reveal, that's not a glitch, that's hesitation, like it's deciding whether to obey or disobey. And that right there might be the key to the finale. If a robot can hesitate, it can choose. So maybe, just maybe, this isn't just a murder mystery anymore. Maybe it's a story about creation and rebellion, about how the things we build to serve us eventually learn to save us or destroy us. Tell me in the comments, do you think the Arconia will survive another season? Or should it finally fall and give our trio peace? I'm torn. I love the chaos, but part of me wants them to just rest, to stop running, stop pretending everything's okay, and actually feel the weight of what they've lost. Because beneath the laughs, Only Murders is really about grief, the funny kind, the lonely kind, the kind you mask with a podcast and a martini. And that's why this show keeps winning us over. It's not just solving murders, it's solving the mystery of being human. Okay, but can we talk about how Lestar literally got more development than half of Nikki and Sophia's sons? Like, I'm sorry, but why were they even here? It's like the writers had a coupon for buy one son, get 3 free. And that final twist with the little tantrum moment, I swear it felt like watching toddlers fight over who gets to hold the family iPad. Meanwhile, our beloved robot is out here quoting scripture and narrating the end of an era. Priorities, people. When the camera cut to Oliver's face during that final scene, I literally did that shock meme face. You know the one where your jaw drops and you freeze like a buffering GF, and then I immediately rewound. Twice, because that reveal, that haunting, perfectly timed reveal, hit like a slow motion heartbreak. You can tell Martin Short was in his give me that Emmy mode. Every twitch, every tear, every fake laugh, it's like watching a man perform his own eulogy. As the credits rolled, I sat there staring at my screen, not just processing the mystery, but the meaning. This episode isn't about death, it's about departure. Every character is leaving something behind, a home, a friend, a version of themselves. And Lestiar, the robot we all mocked, becomes the symbol of what remains after everyone's gone the memory. That's the brilliance of this show. It takes something silly, almost cartoonish, and turns it into an existential question. Because when we're gone, what stays? The laughter, the recordings, the stories we tell, or the silence between them? If you made it this far, you're officially part of the Arconia's inner circle. And trust me, the finale next week is going to change everything we think we know. So if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, because the next breakdown is where I'll be exposing the real meaning behind that final LSTR voice line, and the clue hidden in the last 30 seconds that everyone missed. Also, let me know below, who's your least favorite character this season? Who do you secretly think deserve better? I'll feature the best answers in the next video, and yes, I will roast them if you say Nikki's sons. Until then, stay curious, stay suspicious, and remember, in the Arconia, even your coffee machine might be a suspect. I'm Jones, and this was your Only Murders in the Building Episode 9 breakdown. And if your smart speaker just blinked while you were listening to this run,